Good morning, everyone. As Hudson said, Hal Shelton from Blue Venture Investors. For those of you who have not been outside in the last few hours, when you get outside, you'll find we are at the epicenter of entrepreneurship. Just about on every corner, and at the top and bottom of the Metro Center escalator, there is a vendor with a Pope Francis t-shirt. And so that's entrepreneurship, and I think what we're finding is that the Pope's picture is open data. So it ties together here. So we have a stimulating panel for you today on entrepreneurship in the world of open data. Hudson designed this to what he called to be a lightning session, and he told me what that means is it needs to go fast, and so it will. We have a really distinguished panel. 3 are in the open data market every day as for-profit companies, and one is, Laura is from the premier research organization in this area. So we're going to really get some good insights on this. Format will be, each of us will introduce ourselves quickly, and then Laura will give a presentation with some slides, because big data map, and then we'll have some Q&A that I have prepared. We'll all be around after the session if you want to have any follow-up sessions. So I'll start the intros. Blue Venture Investors is a DC area angel group investing primarily in early stage technology companies. Many of our companies have federal and enterprise technology, software, cybersecurity, media data. We also have a number that are in B2B format, and many have a federal government interface. In particular, Streamlink Software, founded by Adam Roth here, who's one of our speakers. We've invested $24 million in 27 companies in 5 years. We've had 4 exits, so some wood. So far, things are going well. We're always looking for new ideas. You can find more about us at our website, blueventureinvestors.com, and blue is spelled B-L-U without the E. Okay, so with that intro, let me just go through the panel here, and each will introduce themselves, and then we'll start with Laura and the questions. So, Adam, you just want to go first?
Sure. Adam Roth with Streamlink Software. We are based in Cleveland, Ohio. We have a solution that helps both recipients and distributors of grant money track, manage, and move data to better organize, to better understand, to better create accountability around financial and performance outcomes for grants, and can do that in a way that drives standardization through what we like to think of it as the entire grant supply chain, from the federal government to the state to the local government to the nonprofit.
My name's Bob Goldman. I work at Graphic. We're a data visualization and aggregation company, and our goal is really to help deliver knowledge to both consumers and businesses whenever and wherever they need it most. So we have a team of researchers that's focused on aggregating every piece of data that we can get our hands on, both publicly available government databases as well as proprietary databases. We have 2 main applications of our technology and our platform. One is that we build consumer-facing vertical search websites, which each target a different industry. So we have a website that focuses on consumer education, healthcare, real estate, to name a few. And then the other side of our business, which is the B2B side of the business, is that we take all of that underlying data and we repackage it into interactive, embeddable data visualizations that website developers and journalists can use to enhance their content online. So if a writer at the Huffington Post is doing a piece about Obama's approval ratings over time, we can provide them with a visualization that shows those statistics.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Manley, and I'm the co-founder and director of partnerships and programs at the Center for Open Data Enterprise. We're a nonprofit here based in Washington, D.C., and our mission is to work with governments, businesses, and nonprofits to develop smarter open data strategies focusing on users.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Alex Worth. I'm one of the co-founders of Quorum. We're an online legislative strategy platform that helps legislative professionals gain new insights into the U.S. Congress and all 50 state legislatures from data. What we've done is built the most comprehensive database of legislative information that's ever been created, including all the bills, votes, amendments, tweets, press releases, floor statements, all the Census Bureau data, and your colleague letters from members of Congress and individual state legislators, and then built a quantitative analytics layer on top of that that provides new insights like who members work with most frequently, what issues they're active on, and statistics about the amount of bills that they're able to move out of committee and get enacted. And the last part of what we do is that we've built a series of productivity and collaboration tools around all that data to help legislative professionals with some of the tasks they do on a daily basis. And to just give you a quick sense, some of our clients include Fortune 500 companies like General Motors and Toyota, nonprofit advocacy groups like the First Focus Campaign for Children, as well as the United Nations Foundation, and then members of Congress, their staff, and government relations firms here in DC.
Thank you, team. Laura, you want to start with your presentation on your Open Data Impact Map?
Hopefully we can see the screen. Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've seen based on one of our major initiatives called the Open Data Impact Map. Over the past few years, there's been a lot of discussion about the economic value of open data. In 2013, McKinsey & Company released a study claiming that open data could generate somewhere between $3 to $5 trillion annually around the world. The EU has stated that open data could be a new gold mine. So how do companies actually unlock this value? For many businesses, we think of open data in terms of the Pareto principle, that 10 to 20% of the data has about 80 to 90% of the high value for users. So how do we find that 10 to 20% of high value data for businesses? At our center, we call it demand-driven open data. By understanding the unique needs of data users, entrepreneurs, established businesses, research centers, nonprofits, we can change priorities and policies to focus on the types of data that have a higher return on investment. So last year, we wanted to have a better understanding of the larger picture of demand for open data. We developed the Open Data Impact Map, which is the first searchable, centralized database of organizations using open data from around the world. Currently, it has over 1,100 examples from 85 countries, and 700 of those are actually businesses. So this includes examples from surveys, dozens of studies, and research by our team. So I think we have a demo. Great. So if you zoom into the DC area, we can search through different organizations using open data in the region. Is it playing? Okay, great. All right, so we'll zoom all the way down into DC. Can we play it? Okay, well, if you go on to www.opendataenterprise.org/map, you can actually walk through the visualization. But what you can do is zoom into a particular region of the country and learn more about different companies that are using open data. You can also go all the way over to the left and filter by region of the country or region of the world, industry type, data used, or the way that they're actually using it through various applications. You can also look at this information in tabular view and download all of it as a CSV or a JSON file. And if your company isn't on here already, you can submit a survey by going to opendataenterprise.org/map/survey. So what are we seeing from this impact map so far? Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, well, here's a visualization. All right, great. So right now it's going to open up a company called Mapbox, and you can learn more about what the company does and what kind of data they're using, how they're applying it. If you wanted to add information about this company, you can click the edit button, and then you'd get a verification email once we've vetted the information and done research on it. And again, you can zoom back out, filter by region, by country, by organization type, industry category, data type that they're using, or the way they're applying the data. So if we filter by for-profit companies that are using demographics and social data to develop a new product or service, you can see how the map changes. And then you can look at the statistics tab to see how that also is reflected. And then if you go all the way over to the tab, you can look at the information in that form and sort it by the individual columns. And again, you can download all of this information as open data, or click here on the bottom and take the survey and tell us more about how your company is using open data and how it operates. Okay. All right, so what are we seeing? What are some of the preliminary findings? First, that all sectors of the economy are represented. We're seeing companies in education, healthcare, construction, you name it. We're also seeing companies of all different sizes. So 50% of the companies in the Open Data Impact Map are SMEs with 200 or less employees, and 20% of the companies have over 1,000 employees. 40% of the companies were founded in the last 5 years, and some of the most widely used data is demographics, financial, health, geospatial, weather. All right, let's catch up with the slides. And one of the great things about a lot of the companies using open data is that there seems to be a large social good or social mission component to what they're doing. Okay, so generally speaking, we classify private sector open data use in two major ways. The first is new businesses, products, or services. So that's data management and service companies. And then the second is business optimization, so improving your current business or established business. So within the category of new businesses, products, or service, there's two major themes. The first are, okay, here we go. So the first are data management companies, where data or the data platform is the final product. So these companies aggregate, clean, and standardize various types of data. An example would be a data management, analytics, or platform company. The next is information-based companies, where information is the final product. These companies take open data, analyze, and visualize the data to transform it into information for consumers. An example would be a company like Graphic, who creates rich visualizations for their customers. The second and larger category of private sector use of open data is business optimization. So market intelligence, that's where open data can help companies match supply and demand more accurately, or find and assess potential new markets by examining demographics or business registry data. The next is customer experience. Open data can help identify microsegments of the population for targeted marketing. For example, a retail store could use census data to customize store layouts and inventory for different neighborhoods. Next is business analytics. Open data can help change processes where data shows performance or inventory could be tightened. It's estimated that if open data was widely adopted across the fresh food market, it could save approximately $500 million a year in reduced waste from spoilage. And lastly, open data can be used as an additional resource to supplement current proprietary data or replace data that was previously paid for. So over the next coming months and years, we're continuing to expand the Open Data Impact Map and our research so we can better understand the unique needs of businesses to find that high-value data. So with that, I will turn it back over to Hal.
Thanks, Laura. And could you just repeat, if people want to learn more or enter data, what's the link?
Sure. It's www.opendataenterprise.org/map.
Thanks. So let's get on with the questions. And the first question, and we're going to start with Bob, is, and we're going to ask the same question for all three. How do you look at business opportunities in government data, in particular open data, as an opportunity to generate new or enhance an existing business position?
Yeah. So one of the coolest things that I think about open government data, and specifically freely available open government data, is that it really fosters an increase in the rate of innovation in the industries in which that data is available. as we've heard many times today, the number of companies that are using public data, proprietary data to make consumers' lives better, it's growing really quickly. And if those companies can enter markets without having to incur a big upfront data cost, it makes it a lot more feasible. So if we look at industries where there is an abundance of government data, so if we look at healthcare, if we look at education, weather, geospatial, we see a huge number of companies that are doing really interesting things in those markets. And what that ultimately translates into is that it increases competition and it improves products and pricing for consumers. There are other industries where that data is not available. So if you take a look at the real estate industry, there's no good national level data that's made publicly available. When I say national level data, I mean a national level data set that has information on each address, what structure's on that address. Is it a commercial or is it a residential property? How big is the lot? What's the square footage of the building? When was it last sold? That's all collected at the county level. And no one in the government has aggregated at the national level. So what we've seen is that there have been a handful of companies who've done that, and they license that data, but the cost of that data is prohibitively expensive for most startup companies to actually enter that market and start doing new and interesting things, which is why we only see a few very large players in the real estate market. And the same can be said about the company research space. So there's no national level data set that has information on all the 30 million companies in the US that are not public. The SEC has great data on public companies, but not great data on private companies. So that's another industry, which is an example. So at Graphic, we draw on hundreds, if not thousands, of government data sets to seed new product development. These data sets allow us to quickly enter a new market and see if we're able to be successful there, and if so, we can invest more in that. But if we're not, it's not a huge cost to us. So the more that we can make government data available in the industries that really matter to consumers, the more innovation we'll see in the private sector, and the better that will ultimately be for consumers.
Thanks, Bob. And Alex?
Most certainly. Well, I think that was an excellent point around innovation, and one that we have certainly seen firsthand, because about 90% of the data that we use at Quorum is all public data. The issue that we have, and what we often find, is it's just released in a really difficult to use form. And so the great example of this comes from where we got the original inspiration for Quorum, and that I was doing advocacy work on Capitol Hill and wanted to know who a member of Congress worked with most frequently. You would think this would be a fairly easy question to answer with a computer, but the issue is that the Library of Congress doesn't have an API to access all of the data about legislation and what members are doing in their activity. They publish it and put it out on thomas.gov and congress.gov, but in order to answer the question that we wanted to, we had to actually go through and scrape all of the Library of Congress and thomas.gov to get the data before we could even run the algorithms to say who does a member work with most frequently. And so the work that all of you are doing on a daily basis is so incredibly important, because it does facilitate that innovation so that you have that underlying base layer of information that's all there, and then can start to think of, well, what can we do on top of this versus just how do we get it in the first place? And what we find is that we spend a tremendous amount of time working on how do we get it in the first place, and not as much time as we would like thinking about what cool things can we do on top of that data. And so anything that all of you can do to help make it easier for us to get that data in a more easy to access form where it's standardized is what promotes the innovation in the first place.
And Adam?
So I started Streamlink Software after spending a career working in nonprofit organizations, and I had a challenge. I got lots of money from the federal government in the form of Head Start, in the form of Department of Labor grants, and that was a great thing because the only group that pays for those services was the federal government, but it also created immense pain. And I think entrepreneurs, as in general, solve a problem, they have a pain, they try to solve a pain. And what I think open data allows for is it allows for two things. It allows for the creation of the possible, meaning we can do things better, faster, we should be able to do things more efficiently, we should be able to manage things better, because we have more access to data, we have more information. It's like we can never get away from our cell phones today because you're always accessible. If you have more accessible data, more accessible information, things are more possible. The other thing that it does is it identifies and creates and shows more problems. It allows you to identify more areas where there could be value created by understanding the data better. And I think in our business, we looked at the possible, and we said, with open data, there's more ways, things are more possible to do. There's better ways to do the business processes that are being done today. If we build a platform, to your example, we build a platform that allows us to better manage and move data, then we've enhanced the possible. And open data was the driver of that enhancement. And with that comes how we look at our company today, which is almost like a data transportation company. We're like the Amtrak of grant data. We try to move that data through that chain, understanding that everybody has to get on the same train, so that data being standardized, being valuable, being able to be integrated from a variety of different inputs creates more value. But that possible of moving that data, driving that data, having the pressure on folks to get better access to that data is only possible if open data as a fundamental process and as a culture exists, and that's what's driving our business and has opened up many new channels for what we're trying to accomplish.
So thank you, great panel. You've heard that from our panel that the push for open data and transparent data is having an impact, that companies and organizations in very creative ways are getting it, providing access to it, and providing their customers access to it so it can be used by many across our great country. For those, for Hudson, for those who haven't been to the sponsors room, I recommend that you go there and look at all their tables and what they're doing in the area of transparency and open data. A lot of eye-opening, very creative things are being found. Thank you.